Winter is coming, and that which is dead may never die. Home. Second episode of the 6th season of Game of Thrones. Please keep in mind, I don't do spoiler free anymore. Spoilers will abound. This is an episode that has some moments that I really loved and some that I really either could have done without or just did nothing for me. So a bit of a mixed bag on this one. That said, what's good? I really liked. I like seeing the wildlings show up at Castle Black and just immediately take control. I love the giant just grabbing the guy and poof against the wall, and that's it. What we saw with Bran was pretty cool because obviously we haven't seen him in a long time, and he's clearly been doing some sort of training with the three-eyed raven. We never really knew what it was going to be, but the sort of idea that he's kind of just waltzing through the past, as an observer, but is just kind of able to walk through it is something that I hope is kind of a tip of the iceberg thing for what he's actually capable of doing, and that'll obviously get fleshed out over time. I kind of really like where Jaime is right now. Jaime is angry, and to a degree we've never seen before, because even when he was faced with adversity and everything else, he always kind of had the suave kind of swashbuckling thing going on. That's gone. He's just pissed now. But also seeing that contrasted with the High Sparrow, who as always is wonderfully disarming. I used that word last time. I'm going to use it again. It's the perfect word for this guy. It was a tiny moment, but I loved the Resurrected Mountain just poof, that guy against the wall. Done. And of course Tyrion with the dragons. Yes. All the yes to the moment, yes to what his little speech and what he said and the way he delivered it, yes to all of it, except, and this is going to be really weirdly nitpicky, something was off about the faces of the dragons. They looked fine most of the time, but the few times that it was a head-on shot, I don't know what it was. I didn't like the look. So that was all the stuff that I really liked. And that gets us more into the sort of neutral, into the not so great stuff. Roose Bolton is dead, killed by Ramsay. I'm not necessarily going to say that I would have called that. And it's kind of interesting because it did seem like he obviously thought he did, and I legitimately did too, think that Roose could actually control or at least point Ramsay at things and let him loose. And he was never going to be the victim of this guy, and he was. Maybe I was just blinded to it the way that Roose himself was blinded to it. So that moment kind of worked, but then they did what they so often do with Ramsay, which is take it too far. All I needed was for him to say to that guy, "Bring me Lady Walder and the baby." The guy says, the look of horror on his face says, "Yes, my lord." And that's it. Stop there. I know what's happening. I don't need to see any more than that. But of course, you have to show me the rest and show me that not only are we going to kill a newborn baby, it's going to be torn apart with wild dogs. I didn't need to know any of this. That's something that Ramsay's going to do. I get it. But you didn't have to show it. So Balon Greyjoy killed by a character we've never seen, and so far as I can remember, have never heard of. Of course, I say that as a show watcher. I'm sure the book readers know who this guy is. I mean, I get that he's Balon's brother, but other than that, I've got no context for who this guy is. If him, killing Balon and appearing to maybe look like he's going to try and take over is a good thing or a bad thing or just a shift. I've got no context for this event whatsoever, so it's just kind of okay, so now that's a thing that has happened. But of course, the quote-unquote big thing that happens up at Castle Black, up at the wall. First, we have Davos, who talks to Lady Melisandre. I love his little, I don't want to call it a pep talk or an inspirational speech, but I like what he says to her. I've always liked him as a character, and that was a great moment. And then, of course, what happens is what we all knew was going to happen. Jon is back, and he is back by the exact means that I think most of us figured he was going to come back by. So this is obviously just, okay, we knew it was going to happen. That should have annoyed me, but it kind of didn't. I actually oddly felt the tension, thinking initially, well, of course he's going to come back, of course it's going to work, but then something about just the way that it's paced and the way that it's shot and the music that's used, that it still pulled some tension out of me. I was kind of going, he is coming back, right? So, I mean, absolutely no surprise when he did, maybe a mild bit of relief, but oddly, for something that was as big of a, yeah, we all knew this was what was going to happen moment, it still played surprisingly well. Given that pretty much everybody was predicting that he was coming back to life, probably better to get it out of the way rather than string us along too long. That's actually probably another part of the reason why this scene worked for me, because if it had been multiple episode waits and then they string us along for that scene in addition, that would have been like, oh, for crying out loud, just get to it already. Second episode of the season, you can string it along a little bit. It's fine. I guess that's about it. Oh, the one other thing I forgot to mention, Arya. So I, guess she is going back into the House of Black and White to learn more of the ways of the Faceless Men, and I'm actually starting to get really mixed feelings about that, because they're hammering and they're emphasizing over and over, you are nobody, you are nobody, you are nobody, and I get that that's part of their deal and that's part of their training, but I actually kind of don't want to see Arya go through this, because I want Arya to get revenge. I want her to be able to kill more of the people who were on her list. I want her to get satisfaction, but I want that for Arya. I don't want that for no one, and it does look like she has to truly embrace and become what they're saying in order to learn their ways. I worry about that, but we'll see where it goes. So, as I said, overall, bit of a mixed episode. What was good was great. Stuff that I didn't think was going to work still worked pretty well. Some other stuff, I didn't need or just didn't mean anything. So, there were some dips, there were some weak points. There's still overall a solid episode, and excited to see what comes next. So, have you seen the latest episode of Game of Thrones? What were your thoughts on this thing? Whatever they were, drop something down in the comments and let's talk about it. Do not forget to like, subscribe, check me out on Twitter at Council of Geeks, check out the Council of Geeks podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, and until next time, this council is adjourned.